Hey everybody, this is Johnny Giueli from Hardline, Axel Rudy Pell, Crush 40. Oh, I could go on and on and on. But you're watching right now the one and only Heavy Metal TV. Yes.
It is Aftershocks right here on Heavy Metal Television, and joining us today is one of my favorite musicians of all time. I'm a huge fan. I've seen him perform at least a dozen times between Dangerous Toys and Broken Teeth, and as he informed me before we started, I'm missing a whole library of music, but I'm not missing this current release, which is the new band Cassius King. The new release is called Field Trip, and the singer is, of course, the pastor of disaster himself, Mr. Jason McMaster. Jason, how are you, man?
I'm excellent. Thanks for having me today.
Sure, man. Well, it's great to talk to you, man, and it is great to see you with this new band, Cassius King. Little bit different than what you've done in the past, or at least the stuff I've heard you do in the past, but fits for you. And let's talk about it, man. Tell me a little bit about this Cassius King project and how it came together and how you met Dan.
Everybody knows that I'm everything I do is real organic. It's guitar based drums, it's rock format.
Sure.
Blues based, whether it be doomy, psychotic, progressive, thrash, or just butt rock. It's real organic. It's just a rock band. The Cassius King project is something Dan Lorenzo, guitarist Dan Lorenzo out of New Jersey, is he's used the name before, Cassius King, in like a solo record, or he's just using it as sort of a brand.
Sure.
And that's fine. I wanted to use something that he's already had going, as a starting something brand new. Sure, we could have done that, but there's no reason to, it's not broken, so just drive the same car, right?
Sure. Right.
He's been busy with another one of his things called Vessel of Light,
Right.
which is very doomy, and Sabbathy, and all. Keep going, right? All of those things, dark, heavy, bluesy, plodding guitar riff from hell. And I've known Dan. We're not close, but I've known Dan for years, because when I was fronting Watchtower between 82 and 88, literally had to pry me out of the band to be in Dangerous Toys.
Right.
And Watchtower, if you don't know, just for your listeners who don't know, it's arguably, and you can ask Mike Portnoy, you can ask Gene Hoglan, you can't ask Chuck Schuldiner any longer because he has passed on. But those guys knew before everyone else that Watchtower would be arguably the pioneer of technical or progressive metal, or progressive thrash metal, if you will.
Right.
And we were just kids out of high school. So in the mid 80s, Watchtower was in high gear. And I started receiving letters from Alan Tecchio from New Jersey, Alan's the singer for Hades, correct?
Right.
And we became pen pals. So I knew Dan just by name through that. And then me and Dan only had met for the first time a handful of years ago, when he just happened to be in Austin with a buddy of his going to a concert from an artist that was doing spot touring, right?
Okay.
Really flew all the way from Jersey to see an artist at a club down on 6th Street in Austin. I don't even remember who it was. And I went to the hotel and, hey, it's Dan Lorenzo. Wow, what a trip. Cool. We hung out about an hour, and then I gave him a ride to the club, and that was it. It's the only time I've ever met Dan Lorenzo. I saw Nonfiction play live once, but I don't really remember meeting Dan and hanging out with Dan.
Sure.
I don't think it. I was like, hey, dude, it was that. It wasn't,
Right.
So, and over the years, he had just sent, going on 13 years ago, he started sending me hey, you want to sing on this? And so, we dabbled a little bit, and then it was cover songs. Hey, you want to sing on this Kiss song? You want to sing on this Cheap Trick song? Sure, man, no problem. And fun. And he even released some of those covers I did under the name Cassius King.
Right.
And I believe all of that was with, was with Ron Lipnicki on drums,
Sure.
and with Jimmy Schulman on bass.
Okay.
Which at one point or another were in Nonfiction and/or Hades at some point. So there's this whole connection. Basically started via Alan Tecchio, who's still one of my dear friends. We stay in contact.
Sure.
But me and Dan have this record. Alan, just for the record, Alan replaced me in Watchtower.
Right. That's right.
So I went to the Toys and he went to Watchtower.
Right.
So now I'm, he's worked with my band. Now I'm working with his band. It's kind of the joke, right?
Trade.
Yeah, trade you, some reluctancy at first too. It's weird, So
Sure.
me and Alan have a good laugh about that. I love Alan to death.
Sure.
So me and Dan, he starts sending me songs. Hey, you want to sing on this? And I write some lyrics to. It might have been Traveler, first song. Might have been Traveler. It might have been Leave of Absence. And I sent back the vocals, and he sends another one. He sends 5 more, and next thing you know, I've got this stack of songs that I've got to write. I better get busy. I better. And then he emails me and go, oh, we got a record deal. This guy wants to put this out. I'm like, well, that sounds awesome.
Right.
You've put me in a predicament where I can't let go of the reins now, or it'll never get done because I've got all this other stuff I've got to do.
Sure.
So I hauled ass and got it done. Not necessarily just to like, hurry up, no pressure, but there was even a deadline as to when we needed to return, send in artwork and final mix and master. So he's amazed. Dan will tell you, he's the fastest guy I've ever worked with. Most singers just dilly-dally and take their time because,
Sure.
He would say it's a singer thing. No, it's not a singer thing. It's like, damn, dude, he's very prolific. He's very like, he'll write 25 songs in one day,
Wow.
Well, or riffs or parts or whatever. And that he's very prolific. And then I got to say, just time out for a second. Sometimes for a singer who's going to write melodies on top of a bunch of stuff that's someone sort of feeding you have to be inspired.
Sure.
So that means, if they send you 20 things, they might get 5.
Right.
With a vocal line on it, with an idea, with that sounds like a song, right? Well, since there was a deadline, I didn't mess around. It's like, hey, this chorus needs to go twice. Hey, this verse is too short. Hey, you should put a bridge right here to break up those verses, blah, blah, blah. There was none of that because of the time constraint. So whatever song crafting we did, it was just as he sent it.
Right.
And honestly, no regrets. I think the songs came out great. And, there was very little massaging on my end as far as like what was going to be a formula for each track.
Right.
But it came together fairly quickly. And the rhythm section is ace. They're just killing it.
Right.
And Dan is Dan. He just sounds like Dan all the time. I was it was a friendly discussion more than it was an argument as to like, well, what kind of music is this?
Right.
And because I kept saying, I love Vessel of Light, but it's doom.
Sure.
Super dark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is an extension of that. It's just me singing and not Nathan opposition.
Right.
So my approach is different than Nathan's, and I love Nathan's. I love what he does.
Sure.
So my thing is my thing, and his thing, and that's fine. Why would I copy, right? Why would I want it to sound like a Vessel of Light record, right? Because it's well, to me, it sounds like I'm just taking what he's done with Vessel of Light, and without necessarily trying. making it not Vessel of Light,
Sure.
just by using my approach.
Sure.
But on the other side of that coin, it's still Vessel of Light because it's the same band. It's the same it's the same riffage that's coming from Dan. I don't feel like he thinks that his riffs are different for this Field Trip record by Cassius King. He thinks his riffs are quite different, and I think they're the same.
I gotta say, I agree with him a little bit. I don't know necessarily just the riffs, but I think the Field Trip record is a little faster. It's not as sludgy. It's not quite as doomy as Vessel is. You know, it's and that could very well just be because Dan is trying not to sound like Vessel Light, and obviously you don't sound like Nathan. So I think, you know, for me personally, I think the speed of it might be a little bit different. I mean, is it pop to rock? No, it's not. It's not that different, but it's
right.
There are some, at least to me, there are some subtle differences.
Yeah. Those subtle differences, I think, are I've already mentioned them.
Sure.
It's, my approach and maybe Dan. I don't know. I'm not dissing my boy Dan here. I'm just saying I don't know if he has a way to not write riffage that way. He's a riff master. Everybody knows it. The Jersey metal scene knows that. That's when they hear it, they go, "That's Dan." I know Dan. That's Dan. So that's what I'm saying.
Sure. Okay.
And Dan's, to me, the Cassius riff and the Vessel riff are pretty close.
Sure.
Right.
Definitely.
That's all. That's all. I think he wanted it to be more. He was trying to not let me say it's a doom record.
Right.
It's not. It's a rock and roll record.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
It's an organic rock and roll record. But I got to tell you, the reason I want to lean towards doom more than just I don't want to put it in a brown paper bag, but I don't want it to be like we're reinventing the wheel. Oh, it's not doom and it's not rock. It's beyond that. It's not that.
Right.
It's organic. It's exactly what you want to hear out of a heavy rock record.
Sure.
It's got melody, it's got riff, it's got amazing playing on it.
Right. Definitely.
Yep.
So is this your main project now, or is this truly a project versus a band? What is the, or is it too early to tell because you haven't been able to get in a room together and see?
Well, anymore, I would say I don't really have a main because it seems to be that I'm a bit of a whore. And that's fine. And that's just because I love rock and roll, and maybe I don't feel like I'm busy enough as far as, you know, if someone sends me a song they would like me to sing on or play on or whatever, and it's good, I'm not going to say no.
Sure.
Especially if there's money involved.
Right.
But the point is the point. You don't start something and gain some momentum and then just go, "Oh, that's it. That was fun."
Right.
If the phone keeps ringing, why would you, "Oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Stop calling here." Right. Oh, there's money involved, you know, whatever. It's not about the money either, but it helps. So, you know, you want to do a good job on the things that inspire you, and you should not say no to something that's sort of tickling your fancy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sure. Something that has got you and is possessing you. Because if it possesses you, that means you love it, and I feel like if it's good and I can make the time to make this work.
Sure.
And that's kind of where you never break up the band. You don't stop the project if it's good, if it's starting momentum.
Right. Sure.
Irons in the fire, you call it whatever you want. Like Dangerous Toys, we still play. Broken Teeth has some shows coming up.
Okay.
I have a project that I'm involved with an Italian guitarist by the name of David Tiso, who is a master musician, and I have a project with him, Howling Sycamore, that is like Pink Floyd, Voivod, Metallica, um, I mean, dare I say, find the heaviest, doomiest sounding Queensryche song, if there
Okay.
is one.
Some of Promised Land.
There's it's thrash. I mean, there's blast beats, there's screaming, there's singing, there's melody, it is a effing trip.
Right.
It is over the top. Howling Sycamore. There's 2 records
Okay.
now, and we are about to write a 3rd record. And here's just for the record,
Mhm.
I've never met these guys.
Nice. So it's all internet.
10 years of work making music. Okay, 7 years of making music, never met them.
Right. Yeah. Jason, I want to go back just a little bit on what you said, where you said, as long as the phone's ringing, it's on the table. But at the same time, you've never hoarded out like so many bands have done. I mean, I don't want to name anybody specifically, but there are bands that should have retired a while ago from the Dangerous Toys era, and they're still out there playing and they're still making money. But you on the other hand, you've always kind of you moved on from it. Maybe not moved on from it, but you went to new creative outlets. Were you ever considering just trying to make Dangerous Toys the casino band that so many other bands that band came up with have become?
No.
Okay. Simple.
No. I feel like the Toys, speaking for myself as well as the band, I feel like we haven't had to do much fishing to get a gig.
Sure.
We have credibility. We always put on a fun show. We're not the greatest band in the world, but our shows are fun, and
Sure.
we're a decent live band.
Mhm.
We all get along really good. We've been together, God, I don't know, 35 years now or something crazy. And it's 4 out of the 5 original, old ass rock and roll dudes
Right.
that were there in the bus on the first run, so when you can't say that about a
Mhm.
lot of bands
No, you're right.
that otherwise, the doors, the doors, and you change the doors and the windows, and you try to keep the look of the house the exact same,
Mhm.
for classic. That's what we do, but we still have the old windows and the old doors. We just, we just make sure you can open and close them, and then that's good enough. We do have. I was listening to something yesterday, and they were saying that, I only follow the old bands that have new material, and I'm kind of like, I don't really mind when, or I don't really care when Iron Maiden puts out a new record.
Sure. Okay.
How un-Iron Maiden fan-like of me,
Right.
How dare me say that? Well, I know what I like and love and fell in love with about Iron Maiden, and I'm a fairly open-minded gent, but at the same time, it just comes across flat to me.
Sure.
I'm not expecting Murders in the Rue Morgue every time they put out a
Right.
record, but or maybe I am.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what drew you to them.
Right. That's right. So when you think like that, and you're a hard ass like I am as far as that goes. So someone was saying, yeah, the bands from, let's say, the class of '89, like you mentioned, the
Yeah.
bands from my era,
Mhm. Sure.
the Toys, the era of the Toys, the year of the Toys,
Right.
right? If they can keep it going and feed their families, more power to them. That's not necessarily the case with the Toys. Like, we don't really do tours anymore.
Sure.
For years, about new material. For years, I had a really, really bad attitude. I'm working on it. but I had a really bad attitude as far as making a new record when we're only going to play 2 or 3 songs of it
Sure.
live.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point, I'm thinking, well, they're just waiting for Teasin' Pleasin' and Scared and maybe Sportin' a Woody so they can, okay, maybe some people Queen of the Nile,
Sure.
so they can go relieve the babysitter.
Right.
They're waiting for those songs so they can go home.
Right. Sure.
I feel strongly they're not waiting for the new song.
Right.
They want the hits so they can roll the eyes back in their head, and automatically they're in the back seat with their first girlfriend losing their virginity, and Queen of the Nile is on the radio.
Right. Right.
Whether it's that scenario or something completely different, mowing the lawn, listening to the first record on your Sony Walkman, that could be heaven to another person, right?
Sure.
Those are the people that want it, and they bring their kids because their kids missed it and they grew up on that, circa 89
Right.
MTV hard rock. Maybe they were 9 or 10 years old and now they're in their 30s or whatever, and they're there with their parents going, yeah, and they're into it because they remembered it, but they missed it.
Sure.
Back in the day, they missed it, right? So I think about the nostalgia a little bit. Some people are like, fuck nostalgia, and I don't fuck nostalgia.
Right.
I
No.
think that nostalgia is what influences people to continue.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. And the interesting thing is for most bands, and this is across every musical style there is, once they have success and it starts to wane a little bit, they start making records that try to sound like what they used to be instead of being what they used to be. And this, I mean, you've obviously been in a bunch of bands. Once the members change, it's done. It's you can change one guy if there's 5, but you can't change 3 and still make have the same energy, the same impact, the same sound. It just does. So then it becomes almost like pretending to be that band. And I think that's where you mentioned Iron Maiden. I'll say that about Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden now pretends to be Iron Maiden. They're not Rime of the Ancient Mariner anymore. They're 9-minute songs because Rime of the Ancient Mariner was a long song, and there is a difference.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that it's amazing what Iron Maiden have created.
Sure.
It's kind of like a Rolling Stones legacy. And I think that that's beautiful. And it's because they continue to make new music, and they are a brand, and they are a machine, and I feel like are a band that needs to make new music. Just like all of I'll call them institutions.
Sure.
All of the institutional bands, they're a brand. They're making records because it's what they do and it's what they know. Some of us don't really have that legacy, hence me having a bunch of different projects. The Toys were busy at a point, and then when it waned, I had all this time on my hands, and so I was open to working with other people and writing my own songs outside of Dangerous Toys, and it's been a lot of fun, and I think it's honed me as a songwriter. I feel like my lyrics are cooler and funner and better, and in any direction I want them, I can feel confident about writing about the things that I like to write about, with no qualms whatsoever about it. And you said something a second ago that was very interesting about how they're trying to, bands from way back are trying to write new records that sound like the old stuff. And I have to give a hats off to them by this, and hopefully, I hope you'll understand, is that what else are they going to make it sound like? Because they're going to be caught with their pants down if they write, something different, like the Toys record, the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys. This comes up in Topic a lot. It felt really good to write that record. And I love the record because here you go. It challenged us as songwriters.
Sure.
And back to what this relates to what something you said. We had lost enough original members at that point that there was that you know, that was a you could call it a point against us. Yeah, I like to look at it as well, what you know, let's just keep going because I'm not ready to be done with this.
Sure.
What is our record going to sound like? Let's not worry about what our record is going to sound like. We've got nothing to lose by just writing the songs and letting the songs that come out being influenced, whether it be by following a trend. It was the middle of the 90s. A lot of people were talking rock is dead anyway. Well, it's only dead if you stop making rock.
Right.
That's when it dies. You got to feed it. You got to water it. You got to tour it. You got to write it. The songs don't sing themselves. So you got to do something. And that sort of ties in with legacy, right? So that last record, there's not a shoobity mamana, there's not a baby, 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 there's not a ooh yeah, there's not a crotch grab one on that Dangerous Toys record.
Right.
Well, that is, as you know, what a lot of people liked about the Toys is how I almost said perverted, but it's, you know, it's a little bit fantastical and sexual connotations with tongue in cheek, with fun and silliness and, you know, humorous. And that was kind of our thing. Well, for these songs, we were just like, let's take the blinders off and just write whatever comes. And that was the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys, which was why it sounds the way it does, why it's called the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys, even though we didn't change the name of the band because we wanted to get paid. And, you know, we're only playing 2 or 3 songs off of that in the first place, which is my argument from the beginning of this conversation. And we were also touring as a 4-piece because I played bass.
Okay.
Like I said, band had changed. We had lost original members. We were writing the songs for that record. It was going great. I was playing bass on all the demos. The producer comes in. He's like, wow, these are great. I've never heard the band sound this way before. Of course, it was obvious that it was different. And I said, well, just so you know, that's me playing bass on the demos. We're planning on getting a bass player, you know, to come in. And he was like, no. If you don't play bass on the record, because hence the sound of these tunes, your feel and influence is a big part of it. I won't do the record because you know, the work is done. You guys have already gone in and flushed out all this stuff. You know the songs. You know, getting someone else in here who's gonna add something else to it is gonna mess it up.
Sure. No, it's
sometimes that is correct, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it can take it in a place that's cooler.
Sure. I do remember when that record came out too. It was jarring. Like, you know, my 2 favorites from Dangerous Toys are, believe it or not the first one, but I loved Hellacious Acres and I loved Pissed. You know, just because they were just so, like, the first one was cool. I own it, but you know, it was a little poppy for me. But it just seemed like when you came back with Hellacious Acres, you were angry. And certainly Pissed lets you know right from the start, you know, that you're pissed. And it was just like, that's more into my realm. And then I just remember when I got Artist, I was like, whoa, this is a left turn. But I liked it personally, but I know obviously it didn't catapult you anywhere.
Yeah, it sold 10,000 copies on a small label. And I'll take that any day of the week. I come from DIY. I come from underground thrash metal scene. So for me to get the ride, you know, for the Toys, to get the ride that we did, you know, for the machine working for us, and rather it's really the other way around, us working for the machine. The big machine, right? Being on MTV all the time, and you know, all of it, the magazines, the whole ride. And you know, we were lucky to be able to say we lived the circus hit parader world. And there's a lot of bands that almost got to do that. And, you know, let me tell you something. Yes, I loved every minute of it, but it was a fleeting moment, and you can't
Mhm.
rely on what is going to be, you can't rely on that to be reality, right?
Sure.
If you sell enough records or early enough on, you might be able to sustain a career. Like I have this thing, and I've been thinking about this, and Metallica's Black Album just celebrated a 30th year anniversary.
Sure.
And you think about, you've got these great Metallica thrash metal records
Mhm.
and all the way up through Justice, right?
Right.
And then the Black Album, right?
Mhm.
But you have to think about the musical landscape and the climate and what
Sure.
was happening, and the Seattle sound had crept in, and it had the dollar bill chasing it,
Right.
and a
Mhm.
lot of people left their bright colored David Lee Roth costume in the closet, and they just started dressing more drab, and that's
Sure.
fine. But they're following this new trend, and that's fine too. A lot of people, we're sheep. We're just
Mhm.
sheep. You see something, you fall in love with it, and that's how I fell in love with Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Elton John and
Sure.
Queen. It's like I saw that, I was like, oh man, that's cool. And so you're wrapping your head, you're falling in love all over again every time you find a new record or a band you love. And so that's happening. So Metallica was poised. They got the right army, they recruited the right SWAT team
Mhm.
to get their band poised for change.
Sure.
And I want to say, I mean, if they just would have stayed thrashier and whatever, who knows, they could have done the same thing, because management and label were all behind them 100% anyway.
Mhm.
But with that record, it changed the world with that record,
Right. Mhm.
because all of a sudden they're a radio band. Well, the same year, if you don't recall, Trent Reznor was a household name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Nine Inch Nails and Trent Reznor, and even a little bit Rob Zombie and White Zombie, and then later
Mhm.
Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson, and then it's like, and then you got the grunge that's basically leading the way, and all these other guys are right there with them.
Right.
And then maybe Metallica overall surpassed that. But my point is, that's legacy, because you have
Mhm.
to move in. They sold enough records and did all the right moves. Well, that was their biggest move, was making that Black record.
Sure.
And so some of us don't have that opportunity. So you write records that hit home with you personally.
Sure.
Whatever happens after that doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
So, you know, not to be specific at all here, I think that that's sort of where I am with, Dan sending me songs and me having, this obsession with what being influenced by what his riffs are telling me to sing and to write about
Right.
makes it a doom record. I think that Broken Teeth, I sort of set out to start making records that were a little bit butt rock, but really leaning into the Rose Tattoo and the
Sure.
Angels from Angel City and that sort of underground pub rock that AC/DC started making, and that you
Mhm.
could arguably say Motorhead were making in the late 70s.
Sure. Oh,
And it's very important to me that the blues riff that's almost Billy Gibbons, Joe Perry, on top of an Angus Young vibe, is really what Broken Teeth kind of set out to be. And
sure.
there's a lot of Bon Scott and Brian Johnson and Angry Anderson and Steven Tyler and ZZ Top and Foghat kind of a thing going on in Broken Teeth. And that lends itself to make you think about Dangerous Toys, which is its own thing anyway,
Mhm. Sure.
but related by way of myself, but that idea, right?
Sure.
And I would say the toys are maybe a little bit more, I don't know, like a heavy metal Rat, Van Halen,
Right.
Foghat,
Mhm.
Aerosmith thing. There's a little bit more flash, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree too with the especially like a rose tattoo comparison to Broken Teeth. Those are
Mhm.
I have long pushed that to people. People ask me, if I'm talking about Dangerous Toys or something on the show, and then I'll always will bring up Electric and Bulldozer. Those are my two favorites from Broken
Nice.
Teeth. I bring them
Yeah.
up a lot, and people are like, "Broken what? Who? What?"
Yeah.
They don't even
Yeah.
they don't know that those records exist, and it's like,
Uh,
man, dig in a little bit. It's a funny thing. People are so superficial with their listening. It's we always goof on it on Classic Metal Show about the sign at the casino that just says Rat. People don't even know if it's any of the real guys that were in Rat, or if
right.
it was Blotzer's Rat or Piercy's Rat, or they
Right.
just they're casual. They're like, yeah, round and round. I remember that. Let's go
Yeah.
and see the show. It's
Right.
like, man, there's so much more music to experience, and quote unquote music fans tend to miss most of it.
Well, those same people you're talking about, they think that's Ace Frehley on stage.
Right. Yeah, that's it. They don't
Yeah.
know. They have
They
no
think that's
idea.
Peter Criss on the drums.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy, man.
But and they don't care. It's like
No.
they're having a great time, which
Mhm.
is important,
Sure.
and they love those songs. I wanna rock and roll all night and party every day. They don't care if it's a tribute band, and
Sure.
that as a purist, that bugs me.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's most important, this legacy, like we're saying. It's
Yeah.
like Kiss has created this thing just like anybody else that we've mentioned.
Mhm.
And they're deserving of whatever they get because they've created this thing. It came from their minds, and if the guys kind of who who own the company don't feel like they don't need or want to work with anymore the original guys, they feel like they have reasons why, and that's fine.
Sure.
But you could say the same about Rat. You could say the same, about anyone.
Sure. It's crazy how it has worked out today. There's a different genre of music, obviously, but you're of course aware of arguably the biggest selling band ever, Chicago. You know, Chicago's out there touring, but there's this tribute band out there called Leonid and Friends. They're from Russia. And I mean, they are a note perfect tribute band. But they're a tribute band. And they play around this country for $60-$75 a ticket. And it's like, my God, and it's not even their music. I mean, it's the passion that people have toward the sound. People,
Yeah.
they just want to hear those songs sounding that way, and they'll go. They don't care who the name is. And I know for a guy like you, that's got to be frustrating. Not necessarily that band, but just in general, that people will say, okay, well, somebody else knocking it off is as good as the original.
Well, it goes to back, that's not Ace and Peter on the stage, and the audience doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So it goes down to that. I mean, like people who hear me say that, they go, "What is he talking about? That's not Ace and Peter on the stage." No, it's not.
No.
I mean, it's Eric Singer and it's Tommy Thayer, and they're some of the baddest motherfuckers to walk the planet, and they're deserving. They can be in any band they fucking want.
Mhm.
Guess what? They're in Kiss. You know
Right.
what the coolest thing about Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer are? They get to be in Kiss.
Right. Right.
Other than these badass players, and I've gotten to work with both of them a little bit, and they're deserving.
Sure.
They are. And they probably feel, they probably pinch themselves daily that
Oh,
they
yeah.
are professional musicians who actually get to be in a band they fell in love with when they were a child. So
Sure.
there's something cool about that. So enough about that. The tribute band that is making $1 million a year, that's crazy.
Yeah, isn't it? It's nuts, and they're they've played here. I haven't seen them, but that Leonid and Friends is the name of the band, but they play at the casino here. They sell it out, and it's $60-$70 a ticket. It's insanity. But again, I guess if you want to hear the songs note perfect, you go see that band. If you want to see Chicago, which is like 2 original members and kind of the same as this Leonid and Friends, but 2 original guys, then you go see that. It's insane. It's the world has just changed. I mean, you're old enough to remember. I'm old enough to remember. There was a time when, man, one member changed it, and Van Halen, Sammy Hagar came in. There's still people arguing about that. That was 1985.
I know it.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, and that was just one guy. You know,
yeah, there's people mad that KK is not in Priest.
Right. Exactly. There's
Well,
people
it goes back to what you are agreeing. You're giving it's proof that what you and I are sitting here talking about is that what you fall in love with, be careful, you're gonna get your heart broken.
True.
Because you know, love doesn't last forever. That sounds like a Black Sabbath vibe. That's a dark thing, right? That's vampire music, you know. But at the same time, you know, there's people who are, once you're a fan of a band, you're a fan to the death.
Sure.
If the banner in the back still says Judas Priest, they're gonna love it till it's gone.
Right.
And I my hat's off to that. I salute that. I think that Judas Priest sounds amazing with the crew they have, Andy Sneap and Richie Faulkner.
Sure.
But it's different to me.
Well, it is. It definitely it's I've seen it, and it feels different. You know, it just you know, as somebody that has seen it, and you obviously saw it. You saw it every night in what, 91 or whatever.
91,
yeah, you know, I mean, you saw Priest at their most powerful. So I've got to imagine for you, you see it and you're just like, "Ooh, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's just very, very different look."
Well, I think that as well as back then, and what I can say about you know, who like you know, Rob and Ian and Glenn, have to put Glenn in there.
Sure.
He's still, you know, writing and very much in the band. He's just not on stage all night, right? And of course, Scott Travis will give him a lot of credit as well. He came in the late 80s. You know, there's, as they did back in the day, they make it look so easy. It is so tight and planned and thought out, and just there's not a wrong note played. It's so good. It's such a well-oiled machine because they, you know, the core of the band has been together for 50 years, and the people that they've you know, the people that have joined the gang they know it like the back of their hand, and they know what their job is, and they're well aware, and they're just calm and smiling while they do it.
Sure.
And so that's amazing. You know, those institution bands, they can, you know, that means something. It's not like one guy with a tribute band behind him.
Right. No, definitely.
A half-ass tribute band behind him. It's
right.
It's not.
No, it's definitely not. You know, we mentioned that tour real quick, and I don't want to turn this into old folks day at the rock and roll home, but you know, was that for you your favorite tour to be on? Because I'll tell you, I saw it at Shoreline Amphitheater, and what a great show that. I mean, just all of you guys just killed. It was such a good show, and I have to imagine doing it, you know, night after night just had to be like the pinnacle of being in a metal band at that time.
Yeah, that was the first week, that Shoreline show in particular, right outside of Bay Area.
Right.
That was like the fourth show, I think. We started in Salt Lake City. We did Irvine Amphitheater. We did Shoreline. Oh, where else? I think we did another San Francisco area show. I just can't remember where it was. Anyway, so as a fan, that is heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And as you know, and I'm on the bill too, so you know, it's completely crazy. You know, the irony here is I just saw a posting from someone who, her name's Lori. I can't think of her last name right now. She was working in the production office on that whole tour. And she had worked for a guy named Bobby Snyder, who's a tour manager who worked with Metallica. He might still work with Metallica. And I knew Bobby when he worked for Riot, I think. Anyway, she posted this thing she just found innocently on YouTube. It's like an hour-long Ricky Rackman Headbangers Ball special from that summer.
Okay.
Where he was there at Shoreline all day long, interviewing all of the bands backstage, front of the stage, middle of the crowd, on the stage, on the bus, everywhere. And it's this edited together, and all the video clips have been taken out. So it's like literally this 50-minute long segment of Ricky talking to everybody, Alice's band, Lemmy and Wurzel, me and Mark like 4 times.
Right.
Duke and Mike from Metal Church like 4 or 5 times, showing live snippets from the show that day all throughout this. And I just posted it on my Facebook. I reposted it. And the title of it was My Summer Vacation with a Priest, My Uncle Alice, and Godfather Lemmy.
So
and
good.
Then I put the link on there, and I'm hoping to get a lot of funny response.
Sure.
But it was just, I pinched myself, it's like the whole thing was for me, just inside my guts was like, okay, I'm standing next to Rob Halford, my idol.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be cool. Just try to be cool. Try not to fanboy out. And even though I'm on tour with my idols, I have a hard time approaching them. Tongue-tied, kind of,
Sure.
It might be different now, but maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to hug them and say, I love you so much. You taught me everything. You were like a mentor without even knowing it.
Right.
So.
Well, I could tell you, just as a fan, as a fan that had no money at the time, as I was in the military at the time, so I really had no money. And I mean, that summer was the summer. That was, you guys had that tour. Then a few months later was the first show of Use Your Illusion tours for Guns N' Roses. Right. So that was huge. And then I think even right before that was Day on the Green in San Francisco, and it was first show of the Black Album, Soundgarden on Bad Motorfinger, Queensryche opening with Empire, and Faith No More in between The Real Thing and Angel Dust. So it was like 3 shows that I had to scrimp and save and trade CDs and everything else to see, and I literally saw every one of my favorite bands over 3 shows. It was so perfect, and nothing like that has happened for me anyway, as a metal fan, since then. It's such a great year.
That's a blessed summer. That's it's like you walked on holy ground.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you. And I bet you just feel like you won the lottery or something, even though you were broke as hell.
I did. I won the musical lottery, which was more important than money then.
Yeah, well, your heart and your head and your ears and your whole body and being thanked you for it, because those bands and that music helped you be. They just helped you be. Yeah. That was your sanity. That was your therapy, man.
It was. Nope. Yeah. Absolutely correct, man. Well, Jason, before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody about your podcast? Because as I told you in email, I like it, man. I wasn't aware. I'll be honest, I wasn't aware, but
that's fine.
When you made me aware, I went back and I watched 5 or 6 episodes, and I was like, man, this is really strong. It's really great storytelling, but not just well, back in 1988, we were, it's not like that. It's kind of you and your co-host are definitely fans first.
Oh yeah.
Even though you've been in it, it's weird that you've been in it as long as you've been in it, and you're still more of a fan than here's my standard answers on everything guy.
Yeah. Well, I think that everyone who writes and plays music is a fan. I think that I would like to think that everyone who's a journalist, like my co-host on the Talk Louder podcast, is, David Glessner's his name, goes by Metal Dave. That's a nickname some of his friends gave him. Of course, everyone has a Metal Dave in their life, right?
Right.
He's a journalist, and he's a fan. And I feel like not every rock journalist or everyone who has a column is really a big fan of whatever it is they do. It's like it's like 10-second bitching session with so and so is more what they write like.
Sure.
And that's not the case with Metal Dave and some of his writings he's written for major publications off and on over the years. And because he's such a fan, I have a different nickname for him, Front Row Joe. Because at every show he's at, he's in the front row singing all the words.
Nice.
And if he knows the band knows him, and they hand him the mic, and he just sings right along with them. So there's a big nerd fest happening on the Talk Louder podcast.
Sure.
So every nerd is welcome, and it is a loose conversation. It was created by my co-songwriter and producer in Broken Teeth, Jared Tootin, who some may remember him. He was in the band Pariah, which was on Geffen Records and had a record out called To Mock a Killing Bird.
Right.
Now, Jared has been in Broken Teeth since day one as well. Okay. So he's obviously a bro and a partner. And I there's a lot of things that I would not be able to do without Jared. Anyway, he calls me up one day. I think it was a text message, actually. And he goes, "What do you think about doing a podcast with Metal Dave? You guys, and I got an OBS, and I would do all the editing, and we get this thing going, and da, da, da." And I was like, "That sounds fun." And I'm thinking, yeah, we did a couple episodes, and wow, this is cool.
Sure.
Not thinking that in Jared's mind, he's, I was like, "What?" I'm like, "What? We're doing it again?" And he's like, he goes, "Yeah, think like 100 episodes."
Okay.
At first, that was super daunting, right?
Right.
To someone who doesn't know crap about podcasting.
Right.
And I had only recently gotten this setup that you see here, with an interface, and it's actually a mixer, where you're literally plugged in and able to have some sort of radio quality, if you will.
Right.
I had gotten into that because of the pandemic, because I had to teach my lessons online.
Right. Okay.
For like a year before we could get back into the school. So that was another excuse. Well, I've got all this set up. I might as well have a podcast because I've already got this. I'm sitting in this chair 8 hours a day as it is already. Why not? Right. So we just taped our 55th episode.
Right.
The first handful of episodes, maybe 10, maybe more, 15, 20, are no guests.
Right.
So our topics are very real as fans. We have an episode called Live Albums. We have an episode called Ozzy versus Dio. Don't get me started, right? It goes and goes and goes. It's endless as to the things that we can have a sword fight about, right?
Sure.
So, it's going well. We're on all of the platforms. We have a website, www.talklouderpodcast.com.
Cool.
We love it. It's fun. We recently interviewed Simon Wright, Danko Jones, Ripper Owens. We're about to interview Philip Sandoval from Armored Saint.
Okay, great.
And we appreciate them so much because, we don't have high numbers or anything.
Sure.
Like having Ripper on was kind of a big deal, because we don't, we're not Joe Rogan.
Right. Right. Sure.
So, it's kind of, I think that what it is, it's if they check out a couple episodes and they notice that it's a little bit Wayne's World meets Beavis and Butthead, but these guys are real.
Right.
And they're not just these dorks with, that, you know what I mean? We're not just dorks, and the setup is pretty good. And I mean, our shit sounds better than most of our guests. Most of our guests are just on their phone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you deal with that and you get around it and it works. I'm excited about, we did a session with John Gallagher from Raven,
Oh yeah,
one of my biggest influences.
sure.
He's a monster musician and
Mhm.
completely underrated, and a great personality. The guy should have his own show. Him and his brother should just have their own podcast
Sure.
where they just knucklehead out, and I would listen to that
I would
because
too.
they're freaks, man. And I love Raven, so I'm real excited about that. Yeah, so yeah, a podcast. Who knew? Who knew? And it's like duh. I part of me is like, duh, everyone else has a podcast. Why don't I? Right.
Right. Well, yeah, I was listening to the episode, or I was watching the episode with the artist that did the Cassius King and did the Firepower.
Yeah, Claudio Bergman,
Yeah.
who has become a friend and is the biggest Kiss fan I think I've ever met. And
Right.
so he has a podcast where he talks to all the different Kiss artists
Okay.
and interviews these guys about that, you know, where they got this
Sure.
from and that from and where they were when they did it. It's pretty amazing.
Sure.
And yeah, he's Chilean,
Okay.
living in the Bay Area actually.
Right.
And
I had to laugh though when you were talking to him and you started talking about Comic-Cons and stuff, and then you started talking about Kiss conventions. You were like, yeah, it's just a bunch of Kiss nerds that are at these Kiss cons. But that's great, right? You know, you were like so excited about that because you are a music guy. You're a fan. You're not just a business guy and this is
Sure.
my business, you know.
Right. Well, there's a lot of people, and some of these people might even be in Kiss that might give a little like flack or talk crap about these conventioneers, these
Sure.
people who are, you know, renting tables to vendors so they can
Mhm.
all nerd out on each other's stuff and trade
Sure.
and I think that that's awesome. As you can tell behind me, I've got just stuff everywhere.
Right.
It's sensory overload in this room behind me.
Right.
So it's like a Kiss convention,
Sure.
vendors everywhere. It's like walking into a head shop in here, not by way of the incense and weed smoking paraphernalia, but rock and roll.
Right.
It's part museum, and that's what these conventions can be, whether it's Kiss themed or not.
Sure.
And as a rock and roll person, I tried to be straight with that, because we are rock and roll people,
Right.
enthusiasts, right?
Right. Mhm.
I feel like it doesn't matter what it is that you are in love with, whether it's Queensryche rarities or underground Van Halen bootleg live tapes.
Sure.
There's a place for you.
Mhm.
And I feel like the podcast can be a place for you. Now, there's a lot of people who I consider who are major nerds,
Right.
who can't stand podcasts because they're just sitting around or driving their cars
Mhm.
or whatever, listening while they're at work, whatever,
Right.
listening to these nerds talk about things that the listener happens to be in love with as well.
Sure.
And I think that that's like comfort food.
Right.
And it also is kind of a way of fact checking,
Mhm.
because I have friends who will be listening to the podcast, any podcast, but
Sure.
sometimes my podcast, and we're going, what year was that? And then we'll say, who was in the band? And we're talking about a show or an album or a da-da-da-da. And like my friend will call me and go, dude, I was listening and I was answering your questions out loud at work.
Right.
I know the answer to that. It's like there's no hotline they can call in and
Right.
correct us, you know. I wish there was. That would be cool.
Sure.
But
Either they'll do that or they'll send you an email and say, dude, what are you talking about? It was 1992, not 1991.
The commentary is great. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that you know, it's kind of a new frontier for me personally, as well as Metal Dave, my co-host, because even though we've seen a million concerts and we've been to the moon and back, we don't know it all.
Right.
And we, hold up our favorite records and kiss the poster every morning. And, we're still enthusiasts. And then we go to work like everybody else. It's very normal now to, do one of these with someone who's such as yourself, who's an enthusiast, who obviously loves rock and roll enough to want to do this and help promote and inspire. And I think that's important. It doesn't matter what kind of music you like.
Definitely doesn't, man. Well, Jason, lots going on. Obviously, the most current that we started talking about was Cassius King on. And so why don't we do this? Why don't you give the plugs on where people can keep up with you and the various projects and where they should go to find everything?
Okay. Cassius King is you can listen to all of the songs with not just snippets. You can hear the entire record at Here Now. I believe it's Cassius King /herenow.com, and that's here like with your ears.
Okay.
They can buy the record on Bandcamp digital at Nomad Eel is the record label. They have a Bandcamp site. You can buy the record from there.
Okay.
Physical CDs and vinyl are coming vinyl much later because there's the vinyl industry is way behind.
Right.
So it might be a while on the LP, but the CDs should be coming soon, maybe in a week or two. And not really a website, but you can follow Cassius King on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. Dangerous Toys website is www.dangeroustoys.us.
Okay.
There's tour dates there. There's fun old photos you can look at and laugh at. And we are doing the Monsters of Rock cruise in February with Alice Cooper and Rose Tattoo, which are
very good
mentions in your show today.
Sure.
We are, and there's like 40 other bands, but
right.
Hopefully Loudness will be there again. Hopefully Rhino Bucket will jump on as well.
Nice. Very good.
Let's see. I don't know the lineup, obviously. I just know that Alice and the Tats are going to be there for sure. Let's see. BrokenTeeth.com. That's an easy one.
Okay.
We have 9 records out. Most of them you can buy direct from the website, but they're out there. Amazon, Target, whatever. They're all out there. We've been around. We've been a band since 1999.
Right.
And if you like Rhino Bucket, Junkyard, Motorhead, Old Priest, Rose Tattoo, of course, AC/DC, you will like it.
That's your band, definitely.
You will like it if you like any of that stuff.
Right.
It's just good old fun, dirty rock and roll.
Yep.
Songs about fire and the devil. So pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's just blues based, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Let's see what else. Howling Sycamore doesn't really have a website, but you can find those records. Some of them might be out of print. You might be able to find some copies loose. Both of the current the records that are out, we're about to start working on a third. We're both on Prosthetic Records.
Okay, yeah.
The second record was called Howling Sycamore 7 Pathways to Annihilation, and Marty Friedman played a solo on the ballad on that record.
Oh, wow.
And again, those records they can hurt your brain a little bit. They're like progressive, doomy, blast beat, thrashy, almost black metal, but with me singing.
Okay. Wow.
Right. And everyone knows I don't sing black metal.
Right.
I like black metal, but I can't keep up the power that those guys have created, right, with that vocal style. I sing dark and gritty, but wow, right? So, imagine something like that. Progressive, weird, blast beat, doom. It's a lot of peak and valley, right?
Okay.
Something that just came out recently. It's the Cassius King record that's brand new, and then also there's something that just came out midsummer. Was a band that I played bass and sang for in the late 90s that lasted till about 2003 called Godzilla Motor Company.
Okay.
See, I told you you're missing a bunch.
Yeah, I'm missing
Anyway, yeah.
a bunch I need to get.
So Godzilla Motor Company, some people actually compared that to the artist formerly known as Dangerous Toys by some weird way. They are kind of right in a weird way. But that Toys record is not necessarily a metal record. There might be a few songs on there that are very metal, but I wouldn't really call it a round heavy metal record. There's kind of some alt rock kind of songs on that record. Anyway, on the Godzilla Motor Company project, features Bobby Landgraf, who played guitar in Down.
Okay.
Yeah. He's also in a band called Honky. But Bobby and I and a guy named Chris Conley, and we went through a bunch of different drummers, and it just the band lasted those years, like 97 through 2003 or something. And we wrote 16 songs and played around Texas, Oklahoma, whatever.
Right.
We did a bunch of South by Southwest music conference performances. We opened for Suicidal Tendencies a couple of times. We opened for Duff McKagan's Load a couple times. Numerous like accolades to talk about for this band, but never quite got off the ground. It was a weird time for, as we know, it was a weird time for rock music. And I don't think the labels really knew where to put GMC, Godzilla Motor Company.
Right.
And once again, there's a lot of soundscape, but it's kind of funky.
Okay.
And it's very heavy. There's thrash moments, but there's a lot of melody. Think Alice in Chains, if Alice in Chains were a thrash band.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's very dark. There's a lot of funky riffage going on. There's some psychotic, evil, pterodactyl sounding, screeching guitar solos by one Chris Conley. And it's very, we sent those demos out to a lot of different people, and there were management and there were some labels that were really on the fence on it. And really the coolest thing, one of them actually came back and said, man, we listen to that thing in the office all the time. Sorry, we don't know what to do with it because we don't know what kind of music it really is. They called it Sci-Fi Metallica.
Nice.
And they were right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it can sound like if you had to put it in a box, right? Metallica from space.
Very good.
That record is finally available. In 2002, we recorded all 16 songs with drummer Eric Tatwaka, and the record never came out. The band, we disbanded over the pandemic. We found the hard drive, dude.
Okay.
The hard drive. And I mentioned him earlier, Jared Tootin, Broken Teeth, producer of Talk Louder podcast, as well as almost every Broken Teeth record.
Okay.
I think he did all 8 records except for the debut record of Broken Teeth. Anyway, we had him basically open the tracks and mix it. And my buddy Danny Stapleton at 360 Mastering mastered the record. I don't know how, held on to the original art files that we were to use for its release from like 2002, from 2001. I had the original art files on like not a floppy disk, but I had them on a CDR.
Right. Okay.
And I found them. And so it's the OG art, it's the OG tracks that have just been remixed and mastered and stimulated.
Cool.
And it came out amazing. We don't have a website, but you can get that on Bandcamp. And Godzilla is spelled GAHDZILLA.
Nice.
Still says phonetically Godzilla Motor Company, but the spelling is strange because when we started to make waves, which was around 99, Toho Limited, who owns the made-up word Godzilla
right
in Japan, they've owned that since the 60s.
Right, sure.
So when they see a band making waves and they got their team doing search, for copyright infringement, and they come across that and they're basically cease and desist. If you have the word Godzilla on anything and you're selling it, a t-shirt.
Wow.
They were like, you need to stop that because we own the word. We are Toho Limited and we're going to send the monster to your town. And so we just changed the spelling and we,
right.
That's why remember when that bad movie came out with Ferris Bueller in it?
Yeah, that was right around that time.
I love them. I'll still watch the movie. It's terrible, but I'll still watch it because I love Godzilla. But
sure, that's the one where he gets trapped in the wires of the bridge at the end. Is that right? I think.
Yeah, I think so. And has babies in Madison Square Garden.
Right. Yeah.
lays the eggs in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Too funny, man.
Yeah. Anyway, so a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And last but not least, jasonmcmaster.net.
Okay.
They can just see all of the things I've just vomited about and more. Yeah.
Very good, man. Well, one more time for the most current project, it is Cassius King. The album is called Field Trip. It's available pretty much anywhere that you listen to music these days. I know it's on YouTube Music and Apple Music and all those places, and it is great. And I can't say it strongly enough, encourage everybody to go find those Broken Teeth records, because I'm not kidding that I love those records.
Thank you very much.
More than the Dangerous Toys, to be honest.
Well, I appreciate that very much. No harm done there, and just being straight with it. Listen, which Broken Teeth records? This sounds like a challenge. I don't mean to challenge you, but
sure.
Which Broken Teeth records do you have?
I was doing press at the time, so I have most of them. I know I have Electric. I know that I have
Viva.
I have Viva.
Okay.
I have Bulldozer.
Guilty Pleasure.
Is that the one with the pitchforks on the cover?
Guilty Pleasure has it's basically red and it's a guy doing this. It's got basically the devil on it.
Yeah, I have. I'm looking at them right now. Yeah, I have the MP3s of Guilty Pleasure.
Okay, that's fine. Do you have the debut record?
Is that the Blood on the Radio record?
No.
I do not have that. I have.
So the debut record came out. Paris Records started it all. That record is still available. You can get it anywhere.
Okay.
I can send you a copy is what I'm getting at. Are you okay with old school CD?
Yeah, of course.
Nice. So that's 5. Do you have 4 on the floor?
I have 4 on the floor.
Great.
I have the self-titled that came out not that long ago. Was it?
No, the self-titled would be the debut. That came out in 1999.
I'm again thinking Blood on the Radio.
You mentioned Blood on the Radio.
Yeah, because Blood on the Radio doesn't really say Blood on the Radio. It just says Broken Teeth on the
No, it says Blood on the Radio.
Does it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one I'm thinking of.
It's like an old radio. Well, it's a live record.
Old radio. Yeah.
Blood on the Radio is a live record, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I have a few. I guess I don't have them all. I thought I did.
You have a lot. Well, if you email me and tell me which one you're missing, I'll put together a care package, and I'll throw other things that you might be missing in there as well.
Absolutely. We'll trade.
During the pandemic, Broken Teeth released another live record called Evil in the Queue. Do you have that?
I do not have that. No, it was.
Yeah, that came out good. 10 songs recorded. It was actually, sadly to say, it was actually our last show until we get back on the horse again here in weird times. But that would have been in December of 2019, supporting Junkyard.
Okay. Oh, great. Wow.
And Evil in the Queue. You can get it anywhere. And came out great. If you buy the CD, it comes with a DVD inside of it.
Okay, awesome.
If you go on YouTube, you can see about, I think, 4 or 5 of the songs from the DVD that have the CD audio, of course.
Sure.
Actual footage. It's not like, just bullshit edited together. It's the real show.
Sure.
With the real audio. They can see it on YouTube right now.
Very
Yeah,
good,
subscribe to Broken Teeth YouTube channel.
Awesome.
Right.
All right, man. Well, then let's wrap this one up. Once again, the latest release is Cassius King. It is Field Trip. And Jason, thanks so much for joining us here
You
on
got it.
Aftershocks, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.